To think what you want is to think truth, regardless of appearances. This is the 7-minute daily focus, day 28 of 365. To think what you want is to think truth, regardless of appearances. Wattles. Today's focus, the unbroken line of reality. Identity does not drift. Reality does not drift. Actuality does not flicker. Identity does not fracture. Only awareness shifts, not reality. This is the reality literacy you sharpen today. The line of reality is unbroken, unchanging, uninterrupted. The self in actuality remains whole whether you acknowledge it or not. Appearance changes because it is translation. Reality remains because it is truth. Hill wrote, "There can be no defeat to the mind that refuses to accept it." I concur with refinement. There can be no drift in the self, the you, that refuses to leave actuality. Pause for a moment. Close your physical eyes. Shift into the first sense. Sense inwardly there is a version of you that cannot move. The you that cannot be shaken, a reality that cannot be altered. This unbroken line of identity is the line of actuality, the metaphysical position where all things already exist in completion. The self is the you and the you is the self. It is not the you grow into, it is the you acknowledge. It is not a self you wish for, it is the self you recognize. It is not a self that physically forms, it is the self that is. Understand this teaching with precision. Reality equals the subjective state, complete, unmoved, actual. Appearance equals the objective state, reactive, translated, temporary. The physical senses report drift because they can only report movement in physical form. But the first sense perceives actuality, and actuality does not drift. When you drift, you do not drift from reality, you drift from awareness of reality. When you fracture, you do not fracture identity, you fracture the acknowledgement of identity. When you waver, reality does not weaken, only your focus weakens. Thus, the principle, identity is unbroken, only attention must be restored. Walk deeper into this reality literacy. The unbroken line of reality means the physical world cannot outrun you. It cannot move ahead of you. It cannot contradict the self that stands as actuality. The physical world moves like a shadow behind the stance you hold. If you change your standpoint, the shadow changes, not because it leads, but because it follows. This is why I declare, appearance is never first. Hill declared, whatever you hold continuously becomes your experience. I concur with refinement. Whatever you acknowledge as actuality becomes your appearance. When you hold identity steady, the physical world must align. When you drift, the translation bends and delays. When you return to reality, clarity returns instantly because the line of reality was never broken to begin with. Consider this, you do not rebuild the self, you acknowledge the self. You do not reconstruct reality, you recognize reality. You do not create stability, you stand in it. Actuality does not move, shift, shrink, or dim. It remains the unmoved foundation behind all physically visible form. So today, return to the unbroken line of reality. Stand in the you that does not drift. Hold the identity that does not change. Anchor the presence that does not waver. For reality is steady, and you are steady in it. Let me deepen this reality literacy of the unbroken line of reality, expanding your understanding of why the self in actuality remains unmoved, even while the physical world shifts, bends, and changes its physical forms. Actuality is not accessed through force, it is accessed through awareness. You do not push your way into the unbroken line. You simply return to what has always been whole. Reality does not rise or fall because of your attention. Your attention rises and falls in relation to reality. Hill hinted at this when he wrote, "Only the persistent mind sees the truth fulfilled." I concur with refinement. Only the first sense sees the reality that already is, allowing physical form to be fulfilled. Wattles echoed this principle. A thing is brought into being by holding the thought of it with faith. I concur with refinement. A thing appears by acknowledging that it already exists in actuality. Sense this expansion of thought inwardly. The unbroken line of reality is where all stability originates. The self in actuality does not tremble because truth does not tremble. The identity in actuality does not waver because completion does not waver. And the presence anchored in actuality does not shake because certainty does not shake. Drift happens only in the objective state, in thought, emotion, perception, never in reality itself. The moment you return awareness to the unbroken line, the inner world stills, the subjective state stabilizes, and appearance begins to realign, because appearance cannot resist the self that stands in what is complete. Walk with this added clarity today. Reality does not diminish when you feel uncertain, only your awareness shifts. Identity does not lose power when you become distracted, only your focus wanders. Actuality does not fade when you drift, only your recognition becomes distant. But the unbroken line remains, waiting for acknowledgement. Every time you return to it, your subjective state sharpens, your presence strengthens, and your appearance reorganizes. This is the power of the unbroken line, the holding place of all that is true. Affirmation for day 28. Reality is unbroken, identity is unmoved, presence is steady, appearance follows the line of what is true.